Hello and welcome back to the Rocknrollsailor Journal. As you can see, we're on a train. We're heading out of Amsterdam towards Haarlem. That's the original Haarlem. And we're going to see a poet that has a bookstore there called the Irrational Library. The guy's Joshua Baumgarten. If you've seen the episode on the Rocknroll Fiery Tongues Festival, you might remember his reading on the Republic of Human Rights that says fuck you to a hell of a lot of things. So it'll be an interesting talk, and maybe we catch some nice scenery as we walk through Haarlem as well. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoy it. Okay, so now we're in Haarlem, and judging by the look and feel of things, there's like a kick-ass storm gonna be coming up. So that's seriously going to mess with the planning. This is a second Dutch life insurance company. And it's kind of strange, in a lot of these old buildings you see a dedication to the original owner, and a lot of them are insurance companies, which shouldn't come as a surprise because insurance and shipping was a very lucrative business. So as the Dutch colonial power spread, so did the amount of stuff that needed insuring, the amount of ships that needed insuring. And of course in those days, taking to sea was like total hazard from day one. You know, boats packed up full, and oftentimes it was like, you know, if a third of the crew came back alive, they were happy, you know. So you can imagine what premiums there were to be had and what profit there was to be taken if you had an insurance company. So this is a bit of the old center of Haarlem. You can see that sky starting to look a bit menacing. So I hope it stays dry.
Deze situatie
There's a small alley called Doelstraat, and there we have, and I'm just in time before the rainstorm apparently, here we have the Irrational Library. Let's run in.
Yeah, at home. Sometimes, but you choose.
En ook deze publiceren van de huisarts van Rocknroll.
You can still crack dirty jokes, it's okay.
No shit.
Waterspuit eroverheen, een beetje whisky erin. Ja, dat is, ik kan helaas niet zeggen. Ook hoog is natuurlijk een keuring. Zo werkt het, zo werkt het niet. Ik zal ook niet
Be there for, just be there for. So that's I think the most you can do.
Ian Gibson, Paul Theroux, Reinhold Niebuhr. Solzhenitsyn, Dante, Green, Metcalf, Ezra Pound.
Echt wel een van meegeven, ja.
Ja, de BPW was het toch zo?
Dat is een andere, ja, dus dit een blauw verpakking?
Blauwe, ja. Heel weinig.
Zo met de laatste tijd gebruikt van zo'n tijdjes uit Duitsland. Heb je daar zo over.
Dat je redelijk een stof met kopen.
Het is lekker op waterbasis.
Dan gaan we heel lekker met water uit.
Okay. So Joshua, so you got the Irrational library going.
This is the Irrational Library. This is actually technically the Irrational Library headquarters because we started a band, and of course we call the band the Irrational Library.
All right.
So to alleviate any confusion, especially on social media, now we call this the Irrational Library headquarters.
What is it, headquarters? Okay.
Pretty much everything that I do falls under that Irrational Library name.
It's like your umbrella concept,
Exactly.
like.
Exactly. Yeah.
Cool. How long have you been here?
The shop exists here in on the dual strap for about, I guess we're now almost 5.5 years, and I've been living here in Haarlem for 17 years.
Cool. It's a place like breeds rock and roll, and you know, it's really good atmosphere. Like you're selling books, records,
Books,
whatever.
records, clothing, weird sort of gift sort of things like a dashboard Jesus, you know, and a dashboard hula hoop, things, items that I buy in that I think will just accent the shop. So they're new items, but they have that kind of quirky, fun feeling that people that sort of idea of if you're not into music or you're not into books, but you like the shop and you still want to buy something, then you get
Yeah,
some
of
for-
course. Yeah.
And,
Add a bit of extra flavor to it. Like.
add a bit of extra flavor. I mean, the basis for the shop is something that there's written on a poster in the front on the wall. Sort of mantra for the shop is that it could go something like, we aim to fill the shop with the influences of yesterday, so the creators of tomorrow will know who best to rip off. So like that, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's a fair way of putting it.
Yeah, I think, you know, all growing up, when I was young, I discovered Devo, you know, for the one song Whip It, you know, a quirky number of fun. And then as I got older, when I was 16, a friend of mine introduced me to Sex Pistols.
Right.
And this sort of he would take me into New York City. He was 2 years older than I am. So my friend Michael, he would take me into New York City, into Greenwich Village, and to all these poster stores and record shops and different places. And this like world opened up to me about
Just soaked it all up.
yeah, and then via punk rock and alternative music, that sort of led me towards literature. Silly enough is the Red Hot Chili Peppers off of Blood Sugar Sex Magic album. Anthony Kiedis rhymes something like, I sit on my porch because I forgot my house key, pick up a book and I read Bukowski.
Yeah.
Back then I was a big Chili Pepper fan, and I was like, who's Bukowski? So I went to a bookstore and I found a book by Bukowski, and I read his Last Night of Earth Poems was the first book of poems I read from him, and I just think I read it in an afternoon. And then when I was upstate New York in the town of Albany, there was a guy named John Nelson who owned Nelson's bookstore, a secondhand bookshop, but he had direct contact with John Martin, who was the editor of Black Sparrow Press, who published everything from Bukowski. Pretty much Black Sparrow ran on Bukowski. And I was just buying books. You know, my parents would give me some money to help with the rent or food, and I would just spend it on Bukowski books. And then in some of the poems and stories that Bukowski wrote, he would list a lot of authors and artists, how they lived, how they went crazy, how they died. And I'd be like, who's Ferdinand Celine? Who's Garcia Lorca? Who is, you know?
So he just took his reference list and started digging in and plowing the field. Right?
100%. And you know, John Fonte and all these things, and then you trace back this history of literature that really spoke to me a little bit more than sort of Ik ben hier! Than the Beat Generation. Henry Miller as well.
Hey, kom hier. Het regent en het stormt een beetje. Kom. Hallo, dit is allemaal goed. Hello.
That's the Sleeping Beauty.
This is Pippi. Pippi, this is Chris. Hi. Hello, liefie. It's all good.
Oh, you were sleeping so nicely right there.
Yeah, the regen, the storm. So yeah, that was sort of the foundation of my sort of hopefully ever increasing knowledge about things, and then spreading. And then the idea from the Irrational Library, when I lived in LA with a college roommate, him and I used to name our apartments. So we first had the Den of Sin, the Home of Impropriety was the second one, and then we had this, together we had this vast collection of random music and art and film and comics and graphic novels and stuff. And then this idea popped in my head of like, as a person you don't necessarily have to be into one thing, you can be into everything.
Yeah.
And, you know, but at the same time draw your connections. And a lot of times they use the reference of, say, going from listening to Miles Davis to Tribe Called Quest to Rage Against the Machine, and knowing how those, in my mind, how
those things totally connect. Yeah, sure.
and how they flow together, and that you can, you know, really enjoy watching a super cultured art house film, but also love something from Adam Sandler or Caddyshack, you know, some fart movie, you know. And
Yeah,
love,
sure. And your choices should never define your next choice. Yeah.
Very well put. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I really go out of my way to fill up the shop with those type of cultural sort of things that I find that things from the culture side that really added color and defiance to life.
Yeah.
You know, and that's quite a vast group out there from everything. So you know that is always my goal when I go searching for stuff. You know, I go to secondhand shops to look for books. And really things that speak to me, you know. It could be also early Stephen King, you know, I think it was fantastic books.
Yeah.
And then to Henry Miller, and then to Kerouac, or Bukowski, of Celine, of, you know, Rimbaud, Baudelaire, you know, those things that I think need to be continuously pushed into the next generation.
Yeah.
That the kids coming up, like Jonah who was here earlier, he's always buying books. And he was really into sort of Marquis de Sade, yours, my French is horrible, but Bautier, you know, the real hardcore French writers and stuff like that. So yeah, I love the idea of my place in the universe is just the one cog in the stepping
I see what you mean.
to push it forward.
Yeah.
You know, because it really all these
It's just passing on the knowledge you're passing on to keys and
you know, all these people helped form who I am in a way, and you know, and to a certain extent, you know, brought me through life, saved at points. You know, I was able to turn to a certain book, certain passages in literature or music, put that on, and feel elevated.
Yeah,
feel like I can still go on with life or fight the good fight. You know. Yeah.
Nice case.
It's never a simple answer with me. It's one.
No, definitely. But, yeah, that's cool.
Right?
Yeah.
We're MADDADDY'S from Haarlem town, based in the Irrational Library headquarters.
Great place. If you're visiting Amsterdam, do pop out to Haarlem and visit these guys. Barbershop, the guys are just, they're smiling when they're doing it in such a way it's like, oh yes, I love my job and my job loves me. And Joshua's just got like a really good vibe coming out. You know, it's like if you're really into the rock and roll spirit, this is a place where you sort of like feel you can take your space helmet off and just breathe fucking real air, you know. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks. Stay tuned for more.